Time now for the report. Rick Santelli, hopefully you've got the numbers for it.
Yes, the August numbers for the Consumer Price Index. Headline number expected to be down is up 1/10 instead of down 1/10. And do remember, the high water mark there was in June when it was the highest level since 2005, when it was up 1.3%. Up only 1/10, of course, is the lowest. Well, since last month, we're unchanged. If we strip out the all-important food and energy, and do understand, gas was down, 26% month over month. It's food that we have to pay attention to, up 0.6%, double the expectation. And the high water mark there is up 0.9. That was in April, and that went back to 1981, up 0.6. Well, if you look at up 0.7 in June, that's kind of our comp. Now, the year-over-year numbers, expecting up 8%, up 8.3 on year-over-year, up 8.3. High water mark there was, of course, 9.1. That goes back to 1981. 8.3 equals April, and it is the lowest level since February when it was 7.9. And if we strip out the all-important food and energy on a year-over-year perspective, it's also hotter than expected, up 6.3%. We're expecting up 5.9. The high water mark there, up 6.5. That was in March. That was the highest since 82. So when we see 6.3, that actually now is the highest since March of when it was the highest since 82. We've had 4 months in a row where it was moderating a bit. We'll call an end to that. Now, as we look at interest rates, we can clearly see that there's a lot of two-way action going on here. But for the most part, we're at 339 and a 10. That's up about 4 basis points. And we were at 329, down 7. So you can see there's been a big reversal. And the panel, of course, is going to discuss this. The thing that really bothers me with regard to inflation is everybody here on this panel agreed months ago that one of the reasons inflation was high was all the government spending. And after we agreed on that, what did the government do? They spent more. Student loans, welfare in terms of the CHIPS Act. Seems like nothing is sinking in. These numbers aren't better than expected, and maybe they should be, and maybe ultimately they're going to start to go back up again because we continue to go back to that well of debt and spending. The gang, back to you.
Inflation rose more than expected in August, squeezing U.S. households even as the cost of gasoline fell and continuing to create political headache for President Biden. Tuesday, that the Consumer Price Index, the Labor Department said, which is the CPI, a broad measure of the price for everyday goods, including gasoline, groceries, and rents, dropped from 8.5% in July to a still 40-year high, 8.3% in August. Price dimmed 0.1%. In the 1 month period from July. Those figures were both higher than the 8.1% headline figure and the 0.1% monthly decline forecast by Refinitiv economists. A worrisome sign for the Federal Reserve as it seeks to cool price gains and tame consumer demand with their so-called aggressive interest rate hike campaign, which, by the way, still is way under inflation numbers, 2.25 percentage points. This is, say it for me, Mr. Samuels.
That is bullshit.
We all know it's Paul Volcker's style to get it under control. Above inflation, that's where the feds need to start. Let's continue. Scorching hot inflation has created severe financial pressures for everyday necessities like food and rent. The burden is disproportionately borne by low-income Americans whose already stretched paychecks are heavily impacted by price fluctuations. Today, higher than expected CPI readings show that we still have a long way to go before inflation returns to more normal levels, said Scott Brave, the lead consumer spending economist at Morning Consult. So guys, let's see what's going on out there to get a better perspective, and I'll break it down to you in English after we see them in action. Let's see some more. Editor, roll clip. Fair use.
A little bit higher than anticipated, 0.1% rise for the month of August in the headline number, which is more than the flat reading that we had last month and less than the 0.1 negative reading that was expected, pushes the year-over-year rate to 8.3%. The forecast had been for 8.1%, so we're a little bit higher. We'll check into the details and see why that is. The core, which matters more to a lot of people, rises 0.6%. That is double last last month and double what's expected, pushes the year-over-year rate to 6.3% from 5.9% last month. The expectation was for a 6.1% move. So some bad news on inflation here, but does it really matter? Because everybody was kind of expecting the Fed to go 75 anyway. Quick look at what some of the increases come from. Food is up 0.8%. Food at home, your grocery store, up 0.7%. And energy, this is the one that was supposed to be the big wild card. Gasoline down 10.6%. It was up 44% on the year last month. Now it's only up 25.6% on the year. New cars are up by 0.8%. That is probably one of the disappointments in this number. Used cars fall 0.1%. There was a forecast that they would be down as much as 1% in this index, and so that is another disappointment. While prices fall, they do not fall as much as the wholesale price index had suggested. And then shelter, the rent component that everybody's been concerned about, that keeps rising even faster, up 0.7% after a 0.5% move last month. And on a year-over-year basis, shelter costs up 6.2%. So we are a long way from saying that inflation is conquered and has peaked, and so the Fed has still more work to do. Obviously cements a 75 basis point move.
The hotter-than-anticipated report suggested that inflation could remain elevated for some time, giving the Federal Reserve reason to stay aggressive and carry out a third 75 basis point interest rate hike at its policy meeting next week. That sparked a sharp sell-off in the stock market, snapping a 4-day winning streak for the major indexes. On a year-over-year basis, consumer prices increased by 8.3%, while economists were anticipating a rise of 8.1%, according to a Reuters poll.
It's frustrating, it's inconvenient, and it's bad for the environment, and there's simply no reason for it. This is the United States of America, for God's sake. This is who we are. This is not what we should be doing.
Here with reaction, Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, first question, do you agree with me that my premise here, they can't run on anything that they're successful at, anything that they've done to improve the country? So I say they've got three things. January 6th, hating Donald Trump. They got the usual playbook. Republicans are racist and sexist and xenophobic. And January 6th, and that's about it, an abortion.
Sean, you're exactly right. If you look at the issues that are racking the country, that are hurting Americans across the country, you have, number one, inflation. The Democrats have no plan for inflation other than to make it worse, to spend trillions more and drive inflation up even more. Gas prices, they have no plan to reduce gas prices other than to make it worse by hammering American oil and gas production. Crime, they have no plan to reduce crime other than to make it worse by continuing to support radical leftist DAs and leftists who try to undermine, defund, or abolish the police. And illegal immigration, they have no plan to stop. They don't want to stop. Their plan is more illegal immigration, more chaos at the border. And so their only political strategy, which you can see their cronies in the corporate media leaning in on, is distraction. They want to scream Donald Trump all day long because there is nothing on planet Earth they hate more than Donald J. Trump. They want to unleash corrupt partisans at the Department of Justice and the FBI to go after Donald Trump to try to distract people. And they want to send Joe Biden up to give the most divisive and hateful speech we have seen a president give in our lifetimes, calling half of the country fascists. They're hoping to scare people into showing up and voting for an agenda that's failing. And what's amazing, they don't plan to change. They don't promise change. They promise more of the same disastrous policy agenda.
But policymakers on and to there are no exceptions that they don't cop to that at all anymore, Rick. It's supply chain, and gas prices have been coming down, and all our efforts are working. And one representative just said, just to be clear, like I was asking insane questions about whether we should still be spending, but I don't know. Austin, or let me. How about you, Steve? What are you seeing there? Give us some more details.
I think the important story of this, Joe, I'll get to the detail in a second. The important story is the Fed just erased the 75 basis point hike that was written in pencil and wrote it in red ink. I think this moves them to 75 for sure at this point because they didn't get the help they were looking for. And I'll tell you where it didn't come from. Rick was 100% right to point out food.
Hey guys, it's Jose, your regular Joe Blow again, keeping an eye out and my ears open to how they spend this. Remember when you did something you weren't supposed to do and you got in trouble, put on punishment? Well, what happened next? Clearly, you didn't do whatever got you into trouble. Again, simple as that. Here the feds know exactly what they are doing and they're not being punished for it and they're not getting in trouble either. This is all man-made, single-handedly, and all they can do is continue to lie and give us a story and another excuse and then another lie and then lie some more. Inflation is only going up. It will get worse before it get better. It will be a long time before we see 2%, if we ever do. So best case scenario, let's work together to get better skills and ride this tsunami, to rake in profits, to better our families, and to put ourselves in a better position to the best of our ability. Do your research, guys. Continue to price this in, budget, prepare, and prepare some more. Guys, it's time to get creative and let's make money off of this. Let's put our family in better positions. We are, where there is a problem, solve it and help others on the way. Each one, teach one. Guys, thank you for the support. And like always, as an American, our most prized possession is to always stay free.
It ain't hard to tell. I excel, then prevail.